assignment. Again, I want to run this slide again. I'll give you this slide again. Partly because it makes clear that point I was talking about earlier of how these systems evolved by reutilizing features of the previous system in the way in which evolution reutilizes features of one system to make another to make an eye or whatever. And partly because the important point I made last time, but I want to make again. You and I, if we were dropped into a society that had a language but no writing system, and we were going to invent a writing system, we said, well, okay, how many sounds you got? We'll get letters for all the sounds. And so it seems like the alphabetic system is the logical way to go. Nobody ever did that. Nobody ever just sat down in a culture that didn't have a writing system and said, okay, let's do an alphabet. They always evolved, unless there was a model already. Sequoia had the model of English writing to work from. But unless there was a model, they always evolved through this pattern of icons and logographs and syllabaries and so on and so forth. It's not an obvious thing to do, except when you lived it, and then it is. It begins as Havelock says in Greece, maybe 750 BC, hard to know. The Phoenician script is a syllabary, but it has some extra letters that Greek isn't using because it doesn't have those syllables, and so they take those and turn them into vowel sounds and make them into vowels. The difference probably isn't as big as Havelock makes it. Vowels, okay, big, you got vowels. But I mean, a language like Hebrew doesn't have vowels now. That's fine. Nonetheless, they have a true alphabetic system by then. And so you get finally this three-way division, although it's almost always mixed, between the logographic, the syllabic, and the alphabetic. The argument goes then that the alphabetic scripts are easier to learn and make it easier for everybody to become literate. Havelock says, now we can have something like mass literacy, but mass literacy. We also get papyrus, which I say Paul will talk about next time, which gives people a medium to write. It's like all of a sudden having electric power and cheap PCs all of a sudden makes it possible for people to use the computer. So that by the 5th century, Greece is an alphabetic society. Havelock says. Okay, this is all mixed up. These slides. I don't know how this happened. I do know how it happened. What do you care? Havelock writes, the invention of the Greek alphabet constituted an event in the history of human culture, the importance of which has not yet been fully grasped, etc., etc. Those twin forms of knowledge came from this, literature and science, and we ask you to take one example of this broad claim and discuss it. Now, let me make 2 points about the homeworks. First, I looked at all of them last night after I played them, and they're quite good. A lot of them, too many of them, just summarize the readings. Well, Havelock says this, and Goff says that. It's not just a test to see if you've done the reading. We kind of want you to take a position, be like George Bush, the decider, not like some wishy-washy person who can't decide. Be like him, not like her. Second, do not, please, write more than a page. There were 1 or 2 people who wrote more than a page. In fact, try to keep it to 500 words. In fact, if you can keep it to 300 or 400 words, so much better. You know the story about Cicero in his letters he writes to a friend. I'm sorry this letter's so long. If I had more time, it would have been briefer. That's the way to think about it. When you got to 500 words, now give it another run and see if you can get it down to 350 words. So some of the responses that were interesting. Tim Webster, is he here? Do you want to tell your story? Okay, well, the interesting thing about your answer, or your response here, you said what a lot of people, a number of people said that no, I mean, as Goff shows, you've got all these other things in Indian and Chinese society without having the alphabet. You had public schools and universities and bureaucracy and so on and so forth. Timothy said the developments cannot be explained solely by the nature of the alphabet. Goff's argument that the individualism of modern society is a result of capitalism, not literacy, she says at the end of her. And he says, I'm assuming you're a history major, is that right? Yeah, it's only you can smell the historian coming out here. I'm unconvinced by monocausal explanation. The concept is hard to grasp as individualism. So if there's some historical phenomenon and somebody says, look, give me 3 minutes, I'll explain it to you, just assume they're wrong, right? Nothing is that simple in history. Arla, is she here? Yeah, can you tell your story? Mm-hmm. Considering, I'm sorry, how many people in general, there were 3 possible answers, yes, no, and I'm a wishy-washy, in-betweener, a flip-flopper. How many people here felt Havelock was basically right? Basically right. Okay. How many people felt that Havelock was basically wrong? And how many people are wishy-washy flip-floppers? Okay. You won't be elected president, but you may get PhDs in history someday. Sun Shu, how do I say that name? Shu is right? Q, I see. Mm-hmm. But you also said, though, that it took longer. It may have happened in those places, but it took longer than it did in Greece. That was the argument that... and that those, Goff does say, well, supernatural and natural knowledge were more mixed. Go ahead, sorry. Right. What Goff describes as skepticism, which is necessary to science, was stronger in the Greek tradition than the Indian or Chinese traditions. Although he says in China it was strong in this and that and the other thing. And so the alphabet had an effect here. That's the argument. There are a lot of people who would argue that. Finally, Cassandra Ramirez, all the way back there. Go ahead, please. And I like this answer very much because it brought up this point that's implicit in these texts, but not said explicitly. Look, I mean, you think there may be some condescension in Havelock's approach to this that reflects that old distinction between primitive and developed, that these other societies, the Indian and the Chinese society, were not as developed as our Western tradition is, and so on and so forth. Now, I may be hearing this through Havelock's writing in the 70s. It was already in the air then. I may be hearing this through the culture wars discussions about Western culture and so on and so forth. And the argument that was made on behalf of people who didn't approve of the loss of the sole or primary focus on Western culture in college curricula. It was a huge battle in the 80s and 90s. Who went the other way and said, no, Western culture is prior and better, and so on and so forth. An argument that had been presumed before now had to be defended explicitly, and writing then could play a role. That we have the alphabet that could stand in for the superiority of Western culture and Greek culture to these other cultures. And whether or not that was Havelock's intention, my sense is he's just a classicist. He comes from an old school in which he says, of course it's Greece. What more does have to be said? That the modern version of that story is a more aggressive one that's trying to confront what they regard as the multiculturalist enemy. But that certainly the alphabet, whether Havelock intended this alphabetic argument that way or not, played into that story. And that whichever side of it you come down on, one should be aware that that's in the background. It's not just about the superiority of one writing system over another, but the superiority of one historical culture over another, but it's the superiority of the culture that dates its roots to Greek society to those other cultures. And that's perhaps in the background when this goes on. I'm very glad you made that point. But now, isn't it the case that the benefits of the alphabet are ultimately going to drive out these archaic logographic systems which take so long to learn and are so complicated and so on and so forth? Writing in 1982, Walter Ong, was a Jesuit, also associated with this Goody and Watt and Havelock position on the importance of alphabetism and literacy, writes, to become significantly learned in the Chinese writing system normally takes some 20 years. Such a script is basically time-consuming and elitist. And remember, that's exactly the argument that King Sejong made when he introduced his syllabic script in Korea in the 14th century. This Hanji, the Chinese form of writing, is just only the elite can use it. We want something the people can use, so we'll have the syllabic script like an alphabetic script. There can be no doubt that the characters will be replaced by the Roman alphabet as soon as the people in the People's Republic of China master the same Chinese language, the Mandarin now being taught everywhere. Why? Because if you're speaking a logographic language, it doesn't matter how it's pronounced. It's like having the letter 5, right? The numeral 5. You can say 5 or Qingque or Funch or whatever. It's still 5. You can communicate in writing even if you pronounce these things in utterly different ways. If you're going to use an alphabetic script, you better say things in the same way, since the script is now representing the way things are said. So everybody's got to learn the same standard language, not just in terms of writing, but in terms of speaking, for that to work. The loss to literature on rights will be enormous, but not so enormous as a Chinese typewriter using over 40,000 characters. Here are variant technologies used before the computer to write Chinese. There's a Chinese typewriter on the bottom. It's a fairly cumbersome sort of thing. You could not have carried it around in your knapsack on the way to class. So what happens to those typewriters? Well, all of a sudden, it's not so hard, right? Does anybody here write Chinese on a computer? So you want to say a word about how you do it?
Yeah. So there is.
Your name is, I'm sorry, that should be Jesse, right? Yeah.
Right. So there's the thing system it's like forward slash thing, and like try to create sound and choose like different right?
So in effect, there is this pinyin, which is the alphabetic system, the alphabetic romanization it's called, and you start to enter an alphabetic. So if you have the word, let me see, you want to say horse, ma, how would you do that?
Then we'll type in MA, and then we get there all the words that have like
And there might be 5 or 7 depending on characters, and you pick the character you want. You do this as quickly as you can type in English?
Well, yeah, because now like for computer they will like use the context.
So if ma means Y, for example, starting a sentence, it's going to, I see. So it's gotten to the point where the technology really leapfrogs the difficulties that were created by these computers. And there are lots of reasons. Now that you have pinyin, people have to know pinyin to do this, but now that you have this technology and so on, why make the shift? People have, for one thing, an enormous attachment to the characters and to the tradition, to calligraphy, which is terribly important for us. Calligraphy. There's still people who care about fonts and typography. There are still, on the web you find these calligraphy people, but to look at my daughter's handwriting, this is an alien thing to her. So I have to write. It's painful to read because it's so painful to write. And I'm sure many of you never mind. This is a symbol of Chinese identity, an important symbol of Chinese identity, and not just because of its form, but for another reason I'll come to in a moment. If you go to pinyin, in fact, it means you have to go to Mandarin. You can't have this system where I speak Cantonese, you speak Fukienese, he speaks Mandarin, she speaks Chinese. But when we communicate, if I say chopsticks by G, which is Cantonese, and you say Kwaizu, whatever, for Mandarin, they're completely incomprehensible. I mean, it might as well be German and Italian from the point of view of sound, but it's the same character, right? And so our identity is formed at the level of the written language, not at the level of the spoken language. We can keep those spoken. But if we go to pinyin, that at least the symbol of that notion of national identity disappears. And then, it's a radical change, and no people like radical change, although the Chinese nowadays seem to be very good at it. What makes it a positive thing to do? Well, look, it's a lot easier to learn pinyin than to learn the old logographic system. And you can add the logographic system afterwards if you have to type or whatever. You can just keep doing it in pinyin all the way. For data input, search and retrieval, and you can see all of it. It's a lot easier to Google pinyin than it is to Google the other stuff. And the spread of Mandarin, it facilitates the spread of Mandarin. Mandarin is spreading. I mean, it's not quite a national language in the sense in which English is a national language here, but it's getting there. It's much closer than it ever has been. So how this will fall out, I mean, people I know who are sinologists have different opinions. Most feel that it will ultimately, the pinyin system will ultimately become the dominant system, though the logographic system will survive and be in wide use for literature and so on. Well, could you in fact go to an extreme case where you have a completely alphabetic system that's completely rational, where basically every sound has one representation, and we just write in a representation that very closely accords with the sound? George Bernard Shaw, who everybody knows, was a great devotee of this idea of the phonetic alphabet. In fact, you can think of everybody here has seen Pygmalion or My Fair Lady or some version of that at one time or another, and pretend to have seen it. It was just as good. And that play, if you read the introduction of the play, and Shaw wrote these wonderful introductions to his plays, was really about his phonetic theories. His idea was that the fact that we speak different dialects is what keeps us apart. Let everybody speak the same dialect, and we will have no more class distinctions. A wonderfully Shavian reversal of the normal way of thinking about those distinctions. And he was a devotee also of this particular phonetic script. When he died, he left all of his estate, or a substantial portion of it, to the society that would promulgate the script and the publication of works in the script. So you can get a copy of Pygmalion or the Xanthocles line written in this Shavian script, in which everything is perfectly phonetic. What's the problem? Well, all of a sudden Timothy and I are writing, or Paul and I are writing in different ways. He has, we have this old technology. The phonetic alphabet, by the way, when you take your introductory linguistics course, I'm being optimist, you'll all learn the phonetic alphabet, and this is actually what that's for. So, Paul will say ka, and I will say something like car. Is the kind of R I make. I'll say car, so and the writing will diverge considerably, although now we use the same symbol. In fact, our system of writing, though we call it alphabetic, has a lot of logography about it, in the sense that, there are a lot of cases where, depending on, you have to know which word you mean in order to spell properly. Though just knowing, particularly with English and French, just knowing how the word is pronounced doesn't give you a lot of help in spelling it. It drives foreigners crazy. Think about, for instance, OU, that digraph, that set of letters. It can be in famous, it can be in journey, or in Paul's case, journey. It can be ow, loud. It can be should. It can be you. It can even be you can think about that. Anybody? You. I'll come to that in a minute. Similarly, through. O-U-G-H. Through. Thought. Ow, bow, off. So on. So there's a lot of different. You know how the one sound corresponds to a number of different. One spelling corresponds to a number of different sounds. Or up. Anybody think of the word where O-U-G-H spells up? It's an older spelling you may not have. Pick up. And anybody want for you? What do you call the board that you when you want to communicate with the dead and it's spelled? How do you spell Ouija? O-U is right. O-U-I. Ouija. Actually, it's a capital. So, so mastering the spelling is not an easy matter, as you learned. It does, however, have these advantages. On the one hand, it's a good idea to have a little help in disambiguating words. I gave this example of French, in which there's something like 10 or 12 different words, all of which are pronounced oh. And if you're reading, and you have a purely phonetic script, you have to do more work and look at the context. Sometimes you have to build more into the context to make the distinction. But you have to do more work in figuring out which of these is meant. Even if it's kind of clear, you have to do a kind of mental stutter step, like a garden path, people sometimes call it, before you can figure out which word is intended. Moreover, and this is important, the point I was making about Paul, our English system of orthography, as irrational and crazy-making as it is, both for us and for foreigners, has the advantage, like Chinese, of giving us a form of written representation that are removed from the various spoken standards in California, in New York, in Melbourne, in London, in Dublin, in most of the areas of what we call the core countries of the English-speaking world historically, and also in parts of Singapore, in Ghana, and so on and so forth, other parts of the world where English is either dominant or very widely used. The language isn't identified with any particular variety, so that we don't think of one pronunciation as being, we think of pronunciation being more correct, but only relative to a local standard. No American wants to speak like Paul does, as elegant as his English is. In the sense in which every Frenchman feels that way until recently, because we have to speak Parisian French, and that's the correct French. Or in Italy, lingua toscana in bocca romana, you have to speak the Tuscan language with a Roman pronunciation. So in most nations, there's an idea of a single correct pronunciation, particularly if the alphabet is phonetic, because then you can represent the correct form. In English, there's that distinction, and it's been very historically important in distributing cultural authority. First in Great Britain, and then later, particularly in the 19th century, as English became this multipolar language with cultural centers in several places in the world. Say none of those is dominant. We don't symbolically represent one of those as the correct form of the language. Enhances the culturally essential point of the community. Literacy, and we'll come back to this several times later when we're talking about modern times, but literacy is seen, if not alphabetism itself, as the fundamental key to having people think modern, so to speak, to be able to think in abstractions, to be able to make deductions and to be able to categorize all the things that Havelock is talking about. We still associate, whether it comes from alphabetism or from writing in general, we still associate with literacy. The famous 1972 UNESCO report on literacy, there are a couple of UNESCO's played a big role in shaping the way these issues are thought about internationally. The illiterate man's thought remains concrete. He thinks in images and not concepts, and so this all part, actually the 1954 report said the same thing, all a part of this international effort to raise standards of literacy, generally by raising standards of education. The idea that people have to be educated so that they can have this kind of logical thinking that's necessary to a modern and ultimately democratic societies and so on. What Francis Bacon said in the 16th century, writing maketh an exact man. Napoleon thought that literacy was important because literate soldiers literate soldiers could march in step. Illiterates couldn't march in step. It was something like the same reasoning that led until in the 19th and 20th century led employers to regard literacy as a requirement for employment, not even for clerks and people who obviously had not read and write, but for factory workers who had no reading and writing. On the assumption reading and writing, on the assumption that if you know how to read and write, you were capable of thinking logically and also being tractable. If you sat down in school long enough to learn to read and write, you could have done that. That showed that you were somebody who could take orders. In fact, the mastery of English spelling is a very good indication of your ability to learn and obey completely irrational rules. Right? And so for an employer, say, I want somebody to just do it. Right? I want somebody who knows how to spell. Right? I don't want somebody to just do Ghost. That makes no sense. You're not working for me. Does literacy have cognitive consequences? Well, if you give people tests of certain cognitive abilities, literate people seem to do better. For example, suppose I give you those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 cards with circles and triangles, some having one symbol, some having two, some having circles, some having triangles, some having white, some having black. And I ask you to sort them out. Right? You can sort them in any number of ways. You can put all the circles together and all the triangles together. You can put all the ones together and all the twos together. You can put all the whites together and all the blacks together. I say now rearrange them in some other order. And again, you can pick whichever order you're going to use and do it that way. This seems quite obvious. Literate people are better at doing this generally than people who are not literate. Important